Welcome back to 3D animation. We are working on our character modeling. This is the second tutorial in character modeling, and we are still focused on polymodeling, so polygonal based modeling, trying to stick with quads, trying to have like really nice clean models that our rig is going to deform uniformly, so it's not going to like create weird little pinch points or little tinfoil looking kind of crinkles and things like that that happen when you get triangles or n-gons, which are, if you don't know what an n-gon is, that's a polygon with more than 4 sides. So we're going to work on continuing along that path. Right now, this is just kind of a front view of my image plane. If I actually just rotate a little bit, you'll see I still have that two-way image plane going so that I can see it from the side or I can see it from the front. I just hid my model that we were working on last time, so I'm going to bring that back. It's still really rough. If I go to smooth preview, you can see it's smoothing a little bit more, but I'm going to stay kind of polygonal for the moment. And we're going to continue on. So I'm going to continue on over here with the hand. I'm going to try to go ahead and extrude out these fingers. So first off, let's just kind of look at it from the side there. I think it's a little bit big. So I'm going to go ahead and go to face mode here and just try to grab all of those guys. I did it with like a lasso tool there. And I'm just going to kind of scale it just down a little bit. I might have grabbed a little too much. I really just want to grab the kind of front end of it there. Whoop, let me grab it with the face again. Sorry, for some reason I keep losing. Oh, you know what? It was because I was on the scale tool. Sorry about that. Let me go back to face. Oh, you know what? I think I must have soft selection on, so bear with me for a second here. Let me go into my tool settings. Yep, soft selection was on. Whoopsie. I was like, why does it keep selecting all that range around it? Anytime that happens where you're grabbing more than what you're trying to select, always check your soft selection. That was clicking on my selection tool, tool settings, and then unfolding soft selection and turning that off. We'll turn it back on in a little bit because I want to show you how powerful soft selection can be. But for the meantime, let's just grab those guys right there. And now we'll shrink that down a little bit. So just kind of the palm of the hand. And now I'm going to zoom in. This creature has 3 fingers. He's pretty simple. So right over here, I'm going to go ahead and try to get a nice line on it there. I could go to the side view, but I'm just working in my regular perspective view right now, just so I can easily kind of go back and forth, but could just as easily go from the side view. So I'm going to go up to my mesh tools here, and I'm going to use my multi-cut. I use my multi-cut a lot when I'm trying to cut additional polygons. So I'm going to cut that, hit return. Now I have another quad for that finger, and then I'll do a little wider on this one, run there, and one there. These fingers are so simple, they're so blocky, I don't need to like, cut any further. I'm just going to kind of extrude out the whole end of that palm, or beginning of the hand, I guess. It's not really the palm. So I'm going to go here and just try to follow the lines that I have in my character sheet. Command E and extrude that out and bring it up a little bit. And I think maybe I'll scale it down a little bit too. That's not bad. And then I'll grab this one, do the same thing. Command E is what I'm using to extrude that out. That's not too bad. I'm going to rotate that one just a little bit. And again, scale it. And just move it up a little bit more. And then the last one, Command E again. And I'll bring that out down here. And again, I just want to slightly get the angles. And then I'll look at this in a second in preview mode, in smooth preview mode. That's pretty good. I'm going to scale that down a little bit. So, it's rough, but I have my 3 fingers now, right? And if I look at that in preview mode, they're actually kind of like too skinny. So now I'm going to come back in preview mode here and widen these out a little bit and just kind of bulge them a little. When I bring them back in to, just non-preview view mode, they'll look like they're overlapping a little bit, but ultimately I am going to smooth these guys. So, I want them to look more like the finished piece. So that's why I kind of move back and forth between that number 1 and number 3 on my keyboard to see the regular polygons and then the smooth preview of them. This guy, I feel like just maybe move it back a hair, move it down, and just scale it up. Cool. And I noticed this guy, I think when I thinned it out, it kind of made that arm just a little skinnier than I wanted. So I'm just bulging it down a little bit. And maybe I'll even like move that out a little bit. I'm kind of messing with his armpit here and just bringing that out a little bit. That might actually make a weird, no, that looks pretty good. There's not too bad. All right, now if I look back in 1, it's not too awkward. They're overlapping a little bit, but like I said, when they smooth, they're going to separate back out again. So if I look at that in 3, they look pretty good. All right. So I've got my rough model blocked out. Even though this character is asymmetrical, it's still a biped. You know, he still has 2 legs and 2 arms. So I'm going to do what we would do most of the time when we're working with a biped, is that like once you have the body kind of roughed out, we're going to mirror it. And then we're going to kind of bring it back into some kind of asymmetrical form. Like I could spend a lot of time extruding this other arm out, but I'd want to make sure that I have like an even number of extrusions, and I don't want them to be like uneven arms when I go to rig it and have some weird deformities happen. So it's often, you want to have that bilateral symmetry, which is kind of like the same on the right as there is on the left, down this like bilateral kind of symmetry line in the middle. So an easy way to do that is to go to your front view now. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of go over this guy and select all of these faces on the left side, right? So I'm grabbing all of it. If I go here and rotate around, you'll see I've gotten the front and the back. If for some reason when you go to select you don't get the front and the back, go click on your selection tool, open up your tool settings, and unchecked camera-based selection. Camera-based selection will only kind of get like whatever's in the front view of the camera. If you unclick that, it'll go all the way through the model and select all the way to the back. So that's why I have that off, because it makes it easy to kind of, like I said, select all the way through. And I really want to get to about the halfway point. I realize this is going a little deeper than halfway, but just bear with me because, you know, oh, you know what? Actually, before I do this, I'm going to insert an edge loop. I'm going to actually try to create a center line here real quick. So I'm going to go up to Mesh Tools again, and I'm going to go to Insert Edge Loop. And I think this is easier to do in like perspective view. And I'm just going to click right in the middle. It was pretty close. If I could do it in the front view, actually. I could just click as close as I can in the middle. You'll see it's kind of zigzagging because I kind of made a wonky... You know, when I was extruding this, I was kind of rotating it and tilting it, but we're going to fix that here in a minute. So if I go back to view 1 and undo, I could try to get it like right down the center the best I can. But no matter what, it's giving me kind of a zigzaggy line, but it at least went all the way around. You know, it's a nice clean model. It went all the way around, and I got that center edge loop, right? All right, so come to the front view again. And now we're going to go to face mode, and now we're going to select half of it. Oh, I guess I wasn't in face. Come on. Oh, I wasn't on the selection tool. There we go. All right, so let me grab those again. Grab those. Oh, I got a little too much. Hold on, bear with me. There we go. And if I just double check, I like to double check to make sure I didn't get any extra polygons anywhere, especially with like a zigzaggy model like that. Nope. Got a nice half view on them. And I'm just going to delete. You might be like, whoa, that's crazy. What are we going to do now? Well, we are going to mirror one side to the other. But before we do that, this is going to give us kind of some trouble when it comes to mirroring. Like if I try to mirror it, they're just not going to connect right. We're going to keep these angles going. I want to clean this up a little bit, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go to vertex mode. Whoop. So let me go here and go to vertex. And I'm going to use this loop again and just grab just that line. I'm going to try to get these guys without getting into the next row of vertices. So I'm going to get right in there. And I should just have that whole kind of perimeter line of vertices now. And if I scroll around, I'm just going to double check, make sure I didn't get any in the body anywhere. No, those look pretty good. And a really quick way to kind of get them all in the same like, you know, vertical line there is to actually use your scale tool. So if I grab my scale tool right now or hit R on my keyboard and I scale along the x-axis, you'll see it actually like perfectly aligns them all. Isn't that nice? Like there they are all zigged out. I could make it worse by going the other way, but if I bring it in all the way in, it'll actually scale them so they're all along one line, which is really nice. And so now you can see all of my vertices are on like that one vertical plane, perfect half, ready to go. Okay. And now that I've done that, I can click off of there and I can go to object mode. And yay, now I have a nice clean object that's ready to be mirrored in the opposite direction. So while I have it in object mode, select my object, and then we're going to go back up to mesh, and we're going to go down to mirror. But make sure you click on the mirror settings box there and bring up the options. So you want to make sure your mirror axis is on the x-plane. As long as you have it oriented this way with a front view and a side view, you'll use the x-axis. Otherwise, if it was like rotated, you might use the y or the z. But in my case, we're going to use the x. Make sure that your merge border vertices, just so you don't get like duplicate vertices, and combine with original so it all becomes one mesh, and hit mirror. And boom, look at that. We have perfect bilateral symmetry. All I had to do was model out half of my model, and then I've got this other nice duplicate. This reminds me of like the Venus of Willendorf, like old stone models, but kind of this crazy alien creature. And if I look at that in smooth mode, there we go. I get a nice smooth version. Obviously, still got a long way to go, but it's looking pretty cool. So I'm starting to get my model where I want it. And I have my arms, and I didn't have to remodel those arms, and they've got the same number of vertices on both sides. So when we go to rig this, and you start bending limbs and fingers and at the torso, everything's going to deform, very uniformly across the whole thing. All right. So now that we have that, bear with me, we have a nice mirrored object. I'm sorry, character. I'm going to go ahead and click on my selection tool just to get off of that. And, now we can come in here and we can start playing around a little bit. I am still right now in just a smooth mode. So in smooth mode, I could come in here and try to start like playing around with some of my, if I go to face mode here, I could start to kind of try to make this a little more asymmetrical since it's not a perfectly symmetrical character. So I'm going to turn on X-ray just so I can kind of see through my model. And you can see like over here, this guy kind of bulges down a little bit. This guy up here isn't. The head isn't quite right. Like nothing's quite aligned. It bulges out a little over here and then has this kind of double bulge on the right. Same thing here. He's got kind of like this little chubby stomach here that's bulging fully out there, but then has an increase on this side. So, it has a long way to go if I want it to really look like my model. So, I could start to like make some selections and start to bring some areas in. That maybe wasn't enough. Like in that case, I might have wanted to grab like the whole side and grab that and kind of try to bring in all of these polygons. And it's just easier sometimes to be able to select things in a whole group, right now in the smooth mode, because if I go back to 1, you can see I'm only having to select like 9 faces there. Once I smooth it permanently, hit the wrong key there. Once I smooth it permanently, it's going to be a lot harder to bring some of these things in. So right now I can kind of bring a lot of these little features in, and then I can come in here, go back to face mode, and I could try to grab these guys. Probably want to grab this one at the corner too, and maybe try to bring that little bulge in a little bit. Actually bring it down a little bit too. And then same thing here. This is the knit and grit of character modeling, is just spending a lot of time kind of like getting all the surface details where you want them, right? In this case, I might actually try to rotate them a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Now we're getting that crease by rotating those faces. And then if I bring that in, now I'm starting to get the bulge in the way that I want. I still have a lot of work to do here, like kind of tapering it under and bringing it into the foot more. And obviously this foot needs to be repositioned a little bit too. I could try, if I do, I just looped around the whole thing. I clicked on one face and held down shift and clicked on the adjacent face, and it went all the way around. And then I selected the bottom one, and then I could just move those faces over a little bit and kind of stretch them down, and then maybe even scale them up a little bit to get that foot where I want it. This foot's actually pretty good. I don't really need to mess with that. So, we can continue to sculpt and sculpt and sculpt. I'm going to do just a few more in this mode, and then we'll switch over. We'll smooth it without the smooth preview. We'll actually subdivide the model, and we'll go from there. So let me just do a few more here. I'm going to bring this in just a little hair. And I think I want to get up at the top here on the head. I'm going to try to bring like this whole... If I hold shift again and hold, see if when I hold down shift I get that plus sign and I double click, I get a nice ring. If I hold shift and double click that, I get that whole ring. I don't think I got the whole top though. Nope, I didn't. I think that's everything up there though. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. I can bring that in, and I can try to scale it down just a little bit. Just kind of shift it a little bit. And I think a lot of this other stuff, I think I can pinch down as I go. So I'm just bringing it in here. Let's try just a few more faces. I'm going to bring these guys. That's pretty good. Let's try that and stretch those over and bring them down. As you can see, I'm really just trying to like get everything into the position that I want. And same here. It might seem like I'm just like, focusing too much on some of these details, but the more you can do with less polygons, the better, because then it just, it involves a whole nother set of tools, and we're going to get to that set of tools real quick here. All right, so that looks pretty good. I've got the general body shape that I'm looking for. Obviously, I've still got some stuff I could do down here at the bottom, but I'll use some of our sculpting tools and soft selection tools here in just a second to bring that into play. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my whole model now. So let's go object mode and grab the whole thing. And I'm going to go back to polygonal mode just so we can see all the polygons, right? And I'm actually going to turn off X-ray for a second just so I can see the whole model. Looking pretty good here. I've got my arms. A little funky back here actually. I just saw, feel like this polygon needs pulled out a little bit. I'm just trying to avoid a problem later. Yeah, something happened there and that got tucked in. I think same thing here. Whoop. Let's bring that around to where it needs to be. Yeah, something funky happened. Hopefully that doesn't turn into a problem. I might have missed that early on, so watch out. It's still, I think that's still a quad. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just kind of in an awkward position right now, especially the way these quads are coming in underneath it. So we'll want to watch that. That could be a deformation issue later, but hopefully it's not. Hopefully that still comes out clear down the road. All right, I'm gonna stop messing with it. So anyway, let's go back. And we're going to go to our modeling toolkit. You could also go up to mesh and use the smooth feature here. Either way, and then it's also here under modeling toolkit. So I can click on smooth and we can see how many factors of smoothing we want to do. Do we want to do 2? Like how much? Oh, you know what? I didn't have my object fully selected, so I had it in face mode. Let's go back to smooth again. There we go. Now when we click on it, that's a subdivision of 1. I probably want to go more than that. 2, that's pretty good without going crazy on the polygons. I could go to 3, but that's a lot to work with. But if you do have a lot of surface details, like if I wanted to bring a lot of little like gritty fissures in the surface and like little skin details, you might want to go up to 3 or 4. I think for me right now, 2 is going to be plenty. I can always subdivide it further. Yeah, this should work just fine. So I'm going to stick with that. Now I have subdivided. I don't need to use my 1 and 3 preview anymore. If I go to 3, it's actually like less subdivided than it is right now. So now I've actually divided my model. I have all these vertexes to work with, which is a blessing and a curse. So one of the first ways you can start to really sculpt it is just using your selection tool. And I talked about soft selection earlier, but if I go to my tool settings and I pull down soft selection, I turn it on. You'll notice now when I roll over, I get this kind of like gradiated zone. Yours might come in really big, like if this number is high, so just bring it down. Like I've got it at 0.4 right now, right? And so I can start to bring this in and really start to push and pull in an easier way on my model. So I'm going to turn my X-ray back on just so I can see the model underneath. So now I can finally address maybe like some of these issues, like over on this side, you know, that whole area. Once I click on it and then I use this, see how it kind of brings everything in with a gradient? It kind of smooths it as it brings it in. Now it's like brings it in the most in the center and works its way out. So I think I need to go back to my tool settings there and select, and let's increase this to like 0.6. That might be a little much. Let's try it. Let's try 0.5 because I don't really want it going up into the arm. Whoop. Vertex mode got turned off for a second. There we go. Why does it keep doing that? I must be clicking on my, you know what, I think I'm clicking on my image plane. Okay. And you can hold down shift and get another part of it. There we go. And then I could bring that whole thing in a little bit. There's where I'm looking for, just to kind of trim up that side of his body, just redistribute the weight a little bit. That's pretty good. And then I could see using a smaller selection up here at the top. So I'm going to go to like 0.3 and maybe like come up here. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then bring that up and out a little bit. Yeah, now we're starting to align. And same thing over here. I'm going to grab like in this zone. Whoop, I think I grabbed wrong area that I'm looking for. There we go. That was the area I was trying to grab. Sometimes it's tough when you're using. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of bring that out a little bit to match again the profile from my character sheets. It's looking pretty good. You can see like down here maybe a little bit. You know what? I need to turn on camera-based selection again because I'm like selecting through the object. So I'm grabbing. There we go. That's going to make it easier. Sometimes that camera-based selection is a blessing and a curse, right? So let me grab like in, ooh, wrong area. Let's grab right around. Yeah, that should be good. And scale that out a little bit. Bring that out a little bit. You know, just getting some curvature to the whole thing. Getting it where I want it. And then I'm going to do the same thing up top here. I never addressed these little guys. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of pull out these little feathers at the top. I actually might have wanted to extrude those earlier, but let's take this down to like 0.1 and see if I can go ahead and pull these out with the soft selection tool. Let's try that. Yeah, you know what? I probably should have extruded that earlier, but let's go to face mode instead. Let's grab. You can do soft selection with faces as well, which is kind of cool. And then we'll Command E that up. Yeah. You know what? We're going to use our sculpting tools on this because I think we'll have a better result. But ultimately, I think I should have extruded those before I smoothed it. I think I would have had a little better kind of like little triple haired Dewey on his top of his head there. So let's go over to the sculpting tools now that we've looked at soft selection, and this is where we'll end up. So under sculpting tools, now I can come back. I'm just going to go to object mode here. I'm going to go ahead and take the X-ray off for right now. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple of these tools. So one of the tools I really like a lot is the smoothing tool, so you can just kind of smooth things out a little bit more. Obviously over here in my tool settings, if your size of the brush, that's what's represented by the black circle, and if the strength is too high, turn both of those down. But I can start to kind of like, you know, just soften out some of the edges. Like it's kind of boxy back here, so I'm just going to kind of smooth out some of that boxiness. And just kind of take some of these hard lines out, which is really nice, and make it a little bit more lifelike. So I use this smoothing tool all the time, and it just kind of helps reestablish the mesh, nice evenness, and get rid of any, like I said, any kind of hard angles. And I can just go around it and kind of, I could turn down the amount of smoothing, but I actually kind of like where the setting's at right now. It's just allowing me to kind of push and pull where I wanted to, kind of actually in these armpits, you can see I do have some issues that I think are going to come down the road. So like I would take like a 0.05 here and maybe get in there and really try to smooth this guy out and just help. You can see how it kind of like redistributes these and evens out the quads a little bit. Yeah, I'd have to work on this later before I rig it just to make sure that this armpit doesn't cause me trouble down the road, because this could be a real bad little pinch point that causes some issues. This side surprisingly isn't as bad. I must have just got the repositioning of that face where it needed to be before we smoothed it. So, sometimes you got to take a few steps back. But you can get in here and just smooth the whole guy out. And then if I want to address, I probably want to, smooth this guy too up here at the top. So anyway, I'm not going to do it all right now, but I am going to show you how I at least could, hopefully build these guys out a little bit as well and get those where I want them. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the center here. And we're going to try to bulge those out. Let's try the lift surface first. Let's see how that works. I'm getting there. It's not quite what I was looking for. I really do think I would kind of step out. Let me see if I can do the pull surface a little bit and increase the size of that. 0.1. Yeah, it's coming out crinkly because I don't have enough subdivision, right? So I could smooth this again, but it is making me wish I had done that subdivision ahead of time. So you know what? We're going to just step back a little bit. I know I've done a lot of work here, but let's see if I can back out. I don't know if it'll allow me to remember this much back, but let's see if we can go back to pre-smoothing. We'll see how far back it remembers. There we go. Okay, so let's do a little bit more subdivision here, right? So let's go ahead and if I come up to the top, like if I wanted to get these little guys to kind of come up a little bit, let's actually just make some polygons. Let's cut it. So if I go to my mesh tool here, and I'm going to go to edit mesh. Actually, I'm sorry, mesh tools and the multi-cut. I'm going to cut some more polygons. More quads. I'll do one there, and I'll do one here. And then same thing there. I'll do one from there to there, and from there to there. And I do believe I need one more from there to there, and return. One more from there to there, and return. All right, so now this is going to allow me, when I go to face mode, to extrude these. So let's extrude it, shift it over, scale it a little bit, and then these will smooth out so nicely afterwards. And then I'll, again, do this one, Command E, extrude it. Obviously I need to move that over. I need to rotate it and scale it. Whoa. And then I'll do the last one, which I can't really see right now, but that's okay. I know it's there. And it's roughly something like this. And scale that down. So now I have those 3 little bits of hair. And it actually reminded me that I didn't do the face, which is kind of an important one. So let's go in here and just cut some polygons for the face as well, as particularly for the eyes, just so we can kind of indent the face first. We actually do have some nice polygons here, so I've got this one and this one, which is cool, but I kind of want to go ahead and cut some additional polygons, not on the back side, just on the front side, like where we are right now. So let's go to the edit mesh, or mesh tools again, I'm sorry, and use the multi-cut. And I'm going to go ahead and cut from 1 to there, and from 1 to there, and hit return. And then I'm going to do another one from here to here, and there to there. And one more from here to here. And maybe one here to here. And let's go ahead and select those two and Command E that. And let's just bring it inward a little bit so we have a little bit of an inset for that face, right? That's pretty good. And we might want to look at this in the front view just to make sure we're in line. See, not so good spacing wise. Actually, that's the downside of doing that in perspective view versus front view, where we would have had a nice clean shot on it. I was kind of doing it from an angle. So I'm going to back that back out again. So from there to there, and there to there. So in this case, I'm actually going to move some vertices around because I actually have a pretty good shape right now. So in this case, I'm going to kind of move this over a little bit and down, and move that down. Keep that where it's at. Bring that down. Bring that down. And bring that down. I still have quads, which is great, but now I have a face zone to kind of, you know, extrude inward, which will smooth out and look pretty good by the time we're done with it. Yeah, this gives me a better, so if I go to face mode, you'll see I have that and that now. If I do Command E on that, and I bring that inward, there we go. Not too much, just enough to be able to kind of see it. And now I'm going to cut some quads for the eyes, last but not least. And so again, I'm going to do my multi-cut. And I'm going to come here to the, oh, it doesn't want to go. Where is it? There we go. Sorry. Sometimes it's hard to get right on it. Oh, that's why. I got to make sure because I extruded to the back that I get the back side of it, because that's where I want these eyes to extrude. So there we go. Actually, this might be easier from perspective mode. There we go. Let's do that to that. And we'll do one more. Whoop. Let's hit return. And we'll get one more from there to there. And return. One from there to there. Return. One from there to there. And return. Let's see how that's looking. That's pretty good on the front view. And let's come in here. Then we'll get from back there. Always tricky to get it in that front view. Return. Actually, there we go. And one more. That's pretty good. And here to here. And here to here. All right, now we have some polygons to work with. So I have this guy and this guy. I'm going to select them both. I know they don't look aligned here, but that's just because it's in perspective view. And I'm going to Command E those and do a little inner extrude on them just to give some space, right? All right, now if I take this out of X-ray mode, you'll see I have some nice inset eyes that I'm working with. Cool, right? And if I go to smooth preview, you can see I've got some little like eye socket cavities that, you know, this character doesn't really have eyeballs. He's got more of these sockets, but now I've got that indented face and I've got those eye sockets to work with. If I hide the image planes, you can see it even better, right? So, and you can see that I have the top now to work with those three little smooth notches, right? So this is where I would stop again. I'd go back to full, hit number 1 on my keyboard. I've got my character, and now I'm going to come back to my modeling toolkit. I'm going to smooth it to a factor of 2. and then I'd get back to my sculpting again. All right, hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the back and forth that you've got to do as you're modeling your characters. I'm going to stop there for right now. We're in a good place. This is definitely a good character for UV mapping and texturing. I'll keep working on it to get it in line with my original drawings, and we'll add some texture mapping to it here in the future, and we'll continue our rigs. So hopefully that gave you some great ways to work with that bilateral symmetry, but then how to also bring some asymmetry back into it. Sculpting tools, soft selection, smoothing, and you know, keep quads, keep those four-sided polygons. Stay away from triangles and n-gons. All right, as always, thanks for tuning in, and reach out if you have any questions.